Hello and welcome to Sasquatch Talk. My name is Bradley Valentine. I'll be the host today. At the top right of your screen, you have Dan Adams. At the bottom, you have Troy Miller. We are the owners of Sasquatch Gun Oil, as you can see on your screen right there. And today, we're here to chat a little bit. Last week, we talked about some foreign invasion scenarios, kind of like a role play scenario. What would we do? But we're going to make it more realistic in a sense. We're going to talk about past foreign invasions, what a future one could look like, not necessarily us bunkering down like the scenarios we had last time. But this is episode 26, quick icebreaker. I don't know if you guys took a look at the Supreme Court ruling on Hawaii's gun law. Have either of you seen that?
Yeah.
Was that the private property?
Yes,
you had to get
exactly.
permission from the owner. Gotcha.
Yeah. So essentially, I'll break it down real quick if anyone hasn't heard of it. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Hawaii's law violated the Second Amendment, specifically that you had to get permission from private owners on private public places like a grocery store to bring in a gun, and they ruled essentially that that's against the Constitution. So Dan, real quickly, what do you think about that move? Positive?
Just so that there's no question out there, I think that gun safety should be taught at a very young age.
Sure.
They can identify it. All firearms should be treated as loaded and ready to kill or shoot.
Right.
And you should not point a gun at anything you're not willing to kill or shoot.
Right.
With that all being said, I think if that was taught at a very young, people like driving, right? If you don't teach people how to drive good, they drive like crap.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous for everyone. But for some reason, we don't approach guns with the same respect, or like it's more of like an irrational fear than a respect.
Makes sense.
Right? Because you can respect a really sharp knife, right? With a really dull knife, you can harm yourself because you've got to put way more pressure than necessary. It can slip, slide, or whatever, poke, all kinds of things, right? But a sharp knife works well. You just have to be careful with it.
Okay. So,
and I just think that every 2A win in the Supreme Court is a win for everyone.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Hawaii would be any different just because it's an island.
Right. Yeah.
New Jersey's an island. They still have horrendous gun laws.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Troy, what do you think? Any additional thoughts?
I can't believe that you would need to get the property's owner's permission to defend yourself in the first place. It was a very, I don't know, wasn't a very effective law, and it's good that it was overturned.
Yeah.
They're left of California.
Yeah.
Can we for a second talk about the logic of that? So are they saying that they thought the law would stop a criminal from coming in and killing people with a gun? Like, the criminal is about to come in and murder someone. It's like, dang it, I forgot to get a written letter of consent to murder people, so I'm not going to do it. Yeah, like, what?
Well, that's the basis of every gun control law. It doesn't matter if it's magazine capacity or registrations, any of that. That's the basis of it, and it's just not effective. It doesn't work.
There's essentially one way to essentially end like gun killings, and it's just get rid of guns completely, right? Like, if you get rid of guns, then there's no gun killings.
Like every gun out
there.
Right,
exactly. You have to eliminate
everything that could be used to make a gun.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
anything
it's
that
a good
could be
idea.
used to make a projectile, and anything that could be used to make gunpowder, right?
That's the only way to do
how's that going for England?
They just kill each other with knives now instead.
Exactly. So you take away the guns.
Outlaw knives too.
Yes.
And then the killings go up elsewhere.
And now you can't have a knife long enough to puncture vital organs.
You have to then outlaw hands because you can strangle people with them. So you have to outlaw thumbs because you can't strangle someone like this. So you cut off everyone's
You can still karate chop people in the neck.
Then you outlaw the arm. You cut off the arm.
Yeah, but I'll get you with my elbow.
We're just walking around
I'll elbow you to death.
All right. Well, I think
most
obviously,
ridiculous things.
as a company within the gun accessory, if you will, that's obviously a good win. Hopefully, the Supreme Court takes a look at other places like me here in Colorado. You know,
Have
they're, huh?
Have you heard of the next one? They're going to be debating it in April and October, but it's about the assault weapons bans. The Supreme Court has taken that on, and whether it's
Yeah,
constitutional or not.
yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be another one
I I
to look forward
I
to.
have a feeling that that one will win. Also on the justice,
Why?
Assault weapons.
because
Why do you think that'll win?
I guess it depends on what you think I'm saying about win. I'm saying I think that it will be a 6-3 like it was, or a 5-4. Like I could see Amy Coney Barrett, or maybe Chief Justice, what's his name? Uh, Walker. What's Roberts?
Hmm.
Yeah, Roberts. What if? Hopefully both of them don't flip on that, because then that's a 4-5 loss. But I could see them upholding that with the way they voted. I guess to answer your question, Dan, is the way that they voted on these laws specifically. Not all votes have been great, but those specifically.
Hmm.
All right. That was our quick icebreaker. I was going to do another one, but I wanted to talk about the Supreme Court decision. So let's get into the foreign invasion. Last week we did a scenario. What would you do if? Now, the funny thing about the history, 250-year history of the United States, is there's been only four major invasions, and they're not even really major. I'll go over them here in a second. I only knew about three. Obviously, there's the War of 1812, one of our first major wars. We have the Mexican and American War, which isn't necessarily an invasion. It was just like between the borders, so like the battles crossed over.
Hmm.
Obviously, there was the Pearl Harbor attack, and this one I didn't know about till I did research for this episode. The Aleutian Islands, which are like the string of islands on
Yeah,
Hawaii, or
Off of
Alaska,
Alaska.
I should say.
Alaska.
Yeah. And the Japanese army actually invaded on land. And it was like one of the
Yes,
first.
six-ish thousand troops.
Yeah. And that was something I didn't know about the Aleutian Islands
The really
invasion.
funny thing about that, though, is by the time we figured out to go do something about it, they were gone.
I think it's funny because it's like you don't really. I think Alaska was just a territory at the time. It wasn't
It was, yeah.
okay. Yeah. So like when you think of the states in the U.S., do you think like those string of islands in Alaska is part of U.S.? Like people don't even really think about that. And if you think about it, Hawaii's not also part of the continental U.S. Was it a state at the time? I don't think it was a state at the
Nope.
time either.
Nope. Both Hawaii and Alaska got statehood in the 50s.
There you
Those were the
go.
last two states, yeah.
Dan, I'll go to you, and then I'll go to you, Troy. Um, what do you think is different between, let's say, the first couple Mexican American War of 1812, even World War II with Japan invasion, and a country, not necessarily Japan, but a country invading today? What's the difference between those historical scenarios and an invasion today? Or is there one?
I think the difference would be media coverage.
Okay.
Um, that's something that they combat all the time over in the Ukraine and Russia and all of these different places is people are addicted to these little devices, and they keep trying to do secret movements and get people places without being seen or detected. And the troops that are the ones that are not supposed to be seen or detected keep doing really dumb things like using Snapchat or all kinds of really dumb stuff and giving their positions away, because they don't realize that every platform is being looked at by every security agency.
Hmm.
And I think that's what would make the biggest difference is there's a little spy in everyone's pocket, and even though you say we're going to do calm out or whatever, you're going to calm out, meaning no communication devices. We're only using, truncated super secret radios. Every time you have communications in a conflict, the other side is feverishly trying to break those communications, either disable them or interpret them so that they can know their move and meet them wherever they're going, right? Well, if you get everyone addicted to being connected and needing a constant affirmation of who they are personally through this little device in their pocket, they're going to do that throughout every battle scenario. One thing that happens at work often is I don't get on my phone for hours at a time, and they're used to getting updates from people texting them, and I refuse to do it. So it makes the dude, we'll call him the expediter, has to come out and see what's going. It's his job to come check on all the jobs.
Okay.
But they often don't like to come right to the spot that you're at working. And so it makes them come see what's going on. I outrank most of them. So I always tell them, if you've put me on a job and I haven't told you it's complete, that's where I'm at. So it's either I'm getting tools, parts, using the restroom, or working. That's the only places that I'm going to be outside of doing that job if I haven't told you it's complete. And so they'll come by and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know where you were. And I'm like, I haven't moved. I've just been working. So that's one of the biggest things I think that will be a difference in this scenario is people can't put these devices down. So doing things without them telling on themselves will be difficult.
So you think essentially foreign invasion troops would be too incompetent? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the examples. There was a video that my buddy was showing me from the Ukraine. They had a special team put together, and Troy, you probably saw this video. He was Snapchatting with his girlfriend and got blown up right then. They used AI to scrub the entire Snapchat, everything available, found his position, blew him up while he was talking to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So you think if there was like a foreign invasion scenario where like a country, let's say North Korea, right? Where do they have cell phones in North Korea? I mean,
there's a whole YouTube thing about
they're not iPhones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not iPhones.
So you think North Korea, they're gonna come over and they can't do Snapchat and stuff, but like they're gonna be so addicted to their phones that they won't be able to do a normal, just like one normal attack.
They might get one in, but they're not making. By the time they get here and see what it's like here, they're gonna give up anyways.
Well, okay, that's a different scenario. That's like I'm just like trying to flesh out your scenario of people just on their phones. Like this North Korean guy is like, talking on his phone during an invasion.
I'm saying if you look at the totality of it from the start to the finish, because of phones and because of the surveillance state that we live in, right?
Okay.
Flock cameras, everything. They're going to have to tactically EMP wherever they're landing to be able to get around the amount of surveillance. And just think about it. Troy, do you have a Ring camera?
No.
Do you have any sort of door camera, right? No, I don't either. No. Brad, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the amount of cameras there, the amount of cameras on cars, the amount of cameras on stoplights, the amount of cameras everywhere.
Different scenario, though. Your first one was that the foreign invader would be too addicted to his phone to get off of it.
Yeah.
That's different than surveillance on the land that foreign invader is.
I'm just saying that that twofold aspect changes the battlefield entirely.
Okay.
That's if they can get here and not be spotted while getting here, traversing the ocean, So they have to get here first.
So Troy, what do you think is the difference between former, let's go as far back as 80 years ago in World War II, invasions there. Like, what would stop someone like North Korea going to the Aleutian Islands in Alaska? Is it different now than it would be then?
I think so. Similar to what Dan's point is, there's far more cameras today than there were 80 years ago during World War II. We couldn't see the enemy sneaking up on us. We couldn't see them crossing 5,000 miles of ocean. Do you guys remember a couple years ago the Chinese spy balloon that went over the? Yeah. Do you know that the U.S. was tracking that the moment it launched from the ground in China?
Mm-hmm.
That was one spy balloon
Yeah.
at 60,000 feet or whatever it was.
Yeah.
If they were sending an army, whether it was North Korea or China or Russia and some other nation, trying to invade, they're going to have to send thousands of troops, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of troops, plus the ammunition, plus the fuel, plus the radio, plus the food,
Right.
And all of this is going to be on a bunch of different boats. You don't think we can't see that coming? We will see that the moment they leave. We'll see them prepping for it at their ports.
I agree with both of you in that scenario. I'm not sure I agree with the phone part, but I agree with the second part, the surveillance on land. And like, Dan, I guess going back to you, Dan, thinking of how does any foreign invasion in any country work if we all know what everyone's doing then, right? Because everyone probably
That's why they're at a stalemate in Russia and the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
although Moscow's burning right now, they are quite literally on fire.
Huh. What's the update in Moscow? I don't think I saw that.
The Ukraine has been launching thousands of drones attacking their oil refineries to the point where it's just burning oil smoke throughout the skies of Moscow. The war has gotten to Moscow. That was something Putin was trying to avoid, but it's gotten to Moscow. Yeah. The front lines are stagnated. But on Dan's point, with that same Russian war, there's been multiple videos of people taking pictures of themselves, and in the background was a map with their positions or the leadership's positions or where artillery's position, and they were posting this to the internet. It wasn't encrypted; everyone could see it.
Yeah,
and so Ukraine, the intelligence services, they triangulated it, and a couple moments later was an artillery strike or a drone strike.
Sure, yeah. So incompetence is essentially that, and then surveillance. Okay, so
I think with just using North Korea as an example, there's a YouTube series about some North Koreans that have defected, and they're here in the U.S., right? And they're getting barbecue, and they go shoot guns, and they go on a road trip. And I was watching the road trip one, and they're like hour 5 into the road trip, and they pull over, and he's like, "Are we still in the United States?
How many countries?"
And he's like, "We haven't." He's like, "We haven't passed a border check at all."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, we don't have those." And he is like, "What do you mean you don't have those?" And they like show him on the map, from here to here you can drive, and like. He was like, I didn't understand how big, because he was talking about what they tell them in North Korea, what they tell them in some of these communist controlled places where they don't have the rest of they have an internet, but they don't have the internet.
Right. Yeah.
And like an intranet. Yeah, and so he was talking about how they're taught to believe that we're small-minded. He couldn't believe how big everyone was. He couldn't believe how many trucks people had.
Yeah.
The wealth that was here, just that people were allowed to even have that much land privately, and like how they didn't have to have their own little armies to control it.
Yeah.
That people relatively respect, boundaries in their yards, and like that's even a thought that we have.
Yeah.
There's so many things that when they come here, that it's going to be so different than what they were taught.
Right.
That it's going to change their entire view of everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Which can they be an effective warfighter at that point? Exactly. Yeah.
Well, they're not going to be so you're saying that they will see our culture and thereby defect from their own army.
It's happened.
But
with North Korea, it's happened specifically. They'll shoot a North Korean trying to flee their country and defect.
I guess are we still not talking about a foreign invasion, a military foreign invasion? I'm not saying North Koreans won't find out truth and want to defect. I'm talking about like were you saying, Dan, that they would come to American soil, see how good it is, and then turn on their country? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Mm-hmm. How would they be immersed in the culture? Like, because those people were free to drive around and make YouTube videos. A military force wouldn't be free to do that, right? They wouldn't just be like, all right, guys, go hang out, see.
The opposition that would happen when they land and see everyday citizens returning fire on them.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's gonna... I'm just saying it's... The reality of it will set in very soon after they land.
Okay. So is it because of the physical, like... I'm lost. Are you saying because
I'm saying I don't think they have. I'm saying the entirety of it, because the one guy that was in the Korean army that's here was saying like his unit has no idea of what they're stepping into.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No clue.
But that this new guy's immersed in the culture. He's free to do whatever he wants in America.
Right, but he still has he still knows what they're teaching them and the tactics that they're teaching them. Uh-huh. What he's saying is effectively, they won't be able to be effective when they get here because of how they look at the world around them. Because of their outlook and how it's like going from Chicago to the most country sprawl area you can imagine, where they don't have public transportation, right? And you take a Greyhound bus there and you get off with your backpack, and then you go to the Greyhound bus station and you look for the travel and how to get her. And I see this happen with guys that come to Klamath Falls in the military, right?
Klamath.
We had senior airmen, we had people show up with no license, and they're like, they literally took the taxi from the airport to the base, and they were there, and they're like, so where's the chow hall? And we're like, there is none. And they're like, well, where's the BX? And we're like, well, it closes at 6. And they're like, where's the gas station on base? And we're like, there is none. And they're like,
this isn't a base. This is just
they're like, what? And that's the exact scenario that I briefed leadership before we had active duty integrate with the Guard. And, they were floored. They were like, what do you guys do? And I'm like, well, I live in town, because there is no place to live on base. You go in town. And he's like, all right, cool. So where's like usually at every U.S. military installation, there's like taxis outside. You can go get a taxi anytime, day or night. None, right? Okay. Like there's like maybe 12 taxis in all of Klamath Falls. Maybe. That's like a generous guess.
Sure.
Right? And there's like 4 Ubers.
Right.
And like, so they're like, well, I guess I gave them a ride, and I'm like, well, let's go figure out what to help you out with.
Yeah.
And like, he was on travel orders, so he was able to get a hotel room and stuff. But like, I was like, just call me, I'll come pick you up. You better be ready. And I got him on base. I was like, you guys, we got to do something with this dude. He needs a sponsor. So we got him hooked up with another active duty guy a single guy, let him crash on his couch, and got him hooked up with a place and all that good stuff. But like he totally thought that like another base, it was going to have everything, and it doesn't have hardly anything. and his whole process of everything he was new to do at his other place, none of that worked where he was at.
What does that have to do with foreign?
That's what I'm saying. The thought process
invasion,
of
though.
The North Korea mindset that they train them into. Okay. All of like 90% of that is not going to work. The tactics that they teach them and what they're going to be able to land with. I'm just talking about.
Yeah.
I'm specifically picking North Korea and what they're getting. Right. Yeah. They don't have giant warships. They can't transport 10,000 people. Yeah. Right. They can only transport maybe 200 at the most. Yeah. Let's say somehow they magically get through everything and they get to a coast and they get to a place to land. Right. And so let's say generously that 250 of them get off a boat and they make it onto land. Yeah. Right. I'm not saying that they couldn't survive, but I'm saying the opposition and their outlook and how far they have to travel and all of everything that they were able to bring with them to start this invasion, right?
They're not lasting long.
They're not going to make it. And by the time that invasion gets full rolling with those 250 people, they're not making it very far. And it's going to be very it's going to be totally off of every game plan they had.
That's what I'm saying. A real world example of North Korean troops. They were actually requested by Putin in Russia to help shore up the Russian forces in Ukraine. Yeah. So the North Koreans show up in Ukraine and they were a non-factor. Yeah. They lost half about to defections, and then the other half had no military tactical training at all. They couldn't form the battlefield. They couldn't control the fight. They were a non-factor.
So
that's what I'm saying. They went to an ally country and they lost over half to defection.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to cross an ocean. It was easier to get there.
Maybe it's my fault for using North Korea. The reason why I used North Korea was because you were talking about like the cell phones, and I'm like, North Koreans aren't on Snapchat and Facebook and stuff like that. So, but here
you could replace North Korea with China, though. China has the manpower. They have probably more resources, but the same problems. They would still have to cross an ocean. They would still have to bring all of the equipment and supplies with them. And we'd see them the moment they leave, even when they're prepping for it.
Yeah. One thing that you're saying, Dan, was like Ukraine and Russia have kind of become like a war of attrition, almost like World War I. So, Troy, do you think that like the future of foreign war like is not gonna be like a ground battle? Like, is it just there's too much, Troy, that where we all have too many resources where it'll just be this moving slightly back and forth like World War I?
Maybe that's traditional war, what has been fought in that manner for the last, several hundred years, thousands of years, if you want. Going into today with the kind of technology that we have, and there's far more people on the planet than there were back then. Yeah, it's going to be more a special forces type of operations, similar to what you saw in Venezuela. You're not going to send in 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 troops, but you're going to send in a couple hundred special forces, the most elite, best trained and equipped forces to get the job done.
Okay.
But they also lost power to the entire area that the special forces landed, which is exactly what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to create an entire blackout with no communications to be able to land in a even third world place. Like even in Haiti, they all have cell phones. Now, are they hooked up to a network and stuff? No, but it'll be really easy to capture that data.
Okay. So, sorry, go ahead, Troy.
And that's called forming the battlefield, what Dan was talking about. Having that blackout, you seize communications, seize electrical, connection. That's forming the battlefield. You're forming it to prepare for a special forces assault. It's not necessarily an invasion, but more of an assault to achieve one very specific mission. Right. Like going in and getting Osama bin Laden back in 2011 in Pakistan. that's kind of what you're going to see,
Yeah,
especially
and that
from
was
a
like
country that
30
has the
people
means.
for that
Yeah,
operation.
yeah, and especially from a country that has the means to do it. I don't know of how many other countries has the means to do a mission like that.
Yeah.
Outside of the U.S.
Dan, during World War One, as we know, there was like the two lines, like they're fighting war on multiple fronts, um, and they were digging in, right? Like literally digging in
Trenches.
trenches. And part of it was like the advancement of artillery and how it was used, and like kind of the advancement of weapons. And people were just stuck, right? Like I used this, like they would go like this, like kind of back and forth. And it just lasted a long time. And it was because before that, essentially wars were fought with like troops lining up and shooting each other, right? But the advancement of technology created this new thing. So my question to you, Dan, is do you think we're in a World War One type scenario where the technology we have is like so tight that right now we're like, you look at Russia and Ukraine, in theory you should think, well, Russia should just stomp Ukraine, right? Like in theory, right? Like you're like, okay, Russia, big country, whatever. Not talking about competence, but it hasn't gone that way. They've been at war for what, 5 or 6 years or whatever, and
Since 2022.
4 years, and you would think it would be over by now, but it's not. So my question to you, Dan, is do you think like new wars will be fought this way for a while, maybe like in the air, until
They
something
talk about
changes?
warfare generation, and that changed even during the Revolutionary War, right? We as a small settlement held off the British forces that had advanced everywhere else they went before.
Yeah.
Right? So the battlefield looks wildly different, and what you have to do now is like this. They talk about like 4D and 8D chess and all that. Like what's happening currently is major superpowers are trying to economically cripple each other and interfere in their elections and sway. They're trying to divide countries from within.
Yeah.
So if they can, that's the thing, if everybody looks back and canceled all the noise and looked at the media coverage, you can like take the dude from New York who was saying like his goal, if he gets in, is to usher in as many communist things as he can. Like he calls himself what
Democratic socialist.
Left, yeah, democratic socialist. And that's his whole thing, is to turn it into communism. But if you look at any country that's had communism for any amount of time, they have very few resources and very few things going for them. And thousands of people die from starvation in those countries on a regular basis.
And they all desire for a change that lived in the communist states. They all wanted something different because it was ineffective. Yeah.
Brad, you've said it before in other podcasts that, the people that say, well, I want your money because I don't want to work for my own money. That's what drives that thought process. Yeah. And the other thing is people need to remember, in a communist regime, only the people in the government that are in charge make the money. They're the only ones that get the money. They become a wealth vacuum, and they start, government overreach, and you can't do anything without the government. It's not until people
squalor.
Yeah, it's not until people wake up and understand that we need to continue the understanding of freedom for our entire nation to keep us from being divided, so we can remain effective against invasions from small countries.
I was laughing because I was thinking, like, it's never worked before, but there's always that person like, it might work this one time. In have you guys watched Arrested Development?
A few times. Yeah.
Tobias is a therapist, and it's comedy. Him and his wife, their relationship's really bad. And he's like, let's try an open marriage. And his wife is like, oh, does that work? And he's like, no, it's never once worked, but it might work this one time. It reminds me of people today with socialism. It's never worked. It's always caused mass murder and corruption.
Yeah.
But it might work this
Poverty.
one time. Troy, you were
Yeah.
going to ask a question a second ago.
Well, no, actually, I was going to say, going back to that whole, you were asking about why couldn't Russia just stomp Ukraine? There's so much bigger, a lot more resources. A lot of people don't realize that competency and determination is actually a much bigger factor than the amount of resources the country has.
Yeah.
So going back to our Revolutionary War, we were more determined, and we may not have been the best trained at the time, but we were determined to win. And Ukraine is determined to not let Russia take them over. Russia might have the resources, but it's all irrelevant if it's getting blown up.
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, let's get to this question then. Because based on everything you've said, I think I know the answer. Could a major military invasion happen today? Troy,
in the U.S., in North America, or just anywhere in the world?
Let's start with the U.S. and then anywhere else. And I'm not talking about like a bombing, or a drone strike or like a SEAL team.
You're talking about an occupation,
yes.
a million man army coming in, invading and overtaking LA and San Francisco and Seattle and just moving eastwards.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Do you think it can happen?
not North America or the United States.
Do you think it could happen other places?
Okay, so let me rephrase that. So if it's a uniformed military trying to do it all at once, no, because we would see it coming. If a country were to, over the course of 50 years, slowly smuggle their people in to get citizenship, they look like civilians, right? Yeah. And then when the party says, "All right, do it now," they activate the sleeper cell, if you will.
Yeah, we lost you.
The sleep. Yeah, I accidentally muted myself.
No worries.
the sleeper
you got them
cell,
going.
Yeah. The sleeper cells might be a more of a realistic thing, but then again, there's the intelligence apparatus that is keeping an eye on every foreign citizen that's coming through. The best thing I think that they can do is have the sleeper cells buy all the gun and ammunition, all the supplies that are in the country already.
Right.
And then when they activate the sleeper cell, they have access to it.
Well, let's talk about the Al-Qaeda terrorist training camp that happened outside of Klamath Falls out in Bly. Yeah, back in 2010, maybe?
No, that was before I moved here.
So that exact scenario happened, but guess what? They got busted.
Yeah, they got busted.
They tried to recruit people, and someone said, "Oh, sure," took pictures with their cell phone and turned them in, and then
that's funny.
Went and busted them.
Were they Americans or were they other?
No, they immigrated and then set up a camp, and they had a few Americans, but most of them had immigrated, and they tracked them all the way from like all the ports where people land and come through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of them had snuck up from Mexico and different things, but
Dan, I'll ask you the same two questions I asked Troy. Is a major military invasion possible in the U.S., and is it possible in any other major country? And not like some small country where there's no military, just like the major countries of the world. So those are your two questions.
I think it would have to happen not how you think it would happen.
Yeah.
I think it would happen through like smuggling through some sort of cartel, not necessarily the cartel. But it would happen through some sort of thing like that. But the thing is, people have to understand that those entities exist to siphon money, goods, and services off of an already existing country, and overthrowing it doesn't necessarily put them in charge. There's always these like, it's got to be some dude that is like a Bond villain that wants control of everything, right? That would have to convince the cartel that it's worth their time and effort to destroy the place that's giving them all of their money, right? So
Killing the golden goose.
It's like it would be like canceling trade with China. Like none.
Okay.
Anything that's made in China doesn't come to the U.S. and anything that's made in the U.S. doesn't go to China. In this day and age, that couldn't happen because both countries would feel that hit hard, right? So we're not going to do that because that's economic suicide, right? As a country. So I think it could happen. It would just take, like we talked about, a particularly large group of people with the same driving force behind it, right?
Goal.
Some sort of giant payoff, some sort of, life is going to be better for me and mine after we do this. And even if I die, then I will still have given my life to a cause that's worthwhile.
Okay.
And that's usually what happens with these would-be invasions is people start to understand that it's not worth giving their life over.
Yeah.
And so the whole operation loses its driving force. Could it? Yes. Would it look like we think it would? No.
Gotcha. What about other countries, Dan? Like other major countries? Do you think it's basically
I have a scenario that, so have you ever heard that like Holland and France will get together and train and have a training mission, right? And they do these joint training missions between big countries, right? Or like we have Red Flag here in the US and like all these different things, right? If it was going to be a uniform invasion, they would have to do it under the guise of a training plan, right? Like we're getting together to train, right? Only we loaded lives.
Yeah, that was the very reasoning that Russia had for building up their troops along the Ukrainian border right before the invasion.
It was all training hoax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So you think it could happen in other countries still, just not.
It would have to be between two allies, though.
Okay. So not two enemies. I guess it also depends on how you define allies, because we already went through this with NATO and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all an imaginary network built on ensured mutual destruction.
I think you both are in agreement that like a massive military invasion, a traditional one, wouldn't likely happen. And I think if you look at the history of the United States, it basically hasn't happened. Like 1812, the War of 1812 is like the only real time where that's happened, where they've
but how far did that reach?
Right, yeah.
Just to DC,
and then,
basically.
And then there was obviously Pearl Harbor, which
that wasn't an invasion.
Right.
That was just a bombing attack.
Right. That was an attack.
Yeah, there weren't troops on ground,
Mm-hmm.
And the Aleutian Islands really are probably the most recent one, which was technically an invasion, but it was also so small. And
they didn't do anything. There was no destruction.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Not really.
So my point is, like, based on U.S. military history, it's not likely to happen again.
Yeah, and look at the riots from like 2020 and 2021, right? Like that was supposed to be a big driving force, and they were going to take down monuments all across the U.S. And half their people didn't show up, and half the ones that did show up were so drugged out of their gourd they could only just mob rule things. And like, sure, they defaced some statues and pulled some down and graffitied some stuff.
Well, that was their goal.
No, well, there was some intel that their whole goal was to try to like ultimately overthrow local governments.
Okay.
But it didn't happen,
Okay.
Police did their job.
Yeah.
Like it lost steam.
For the most part.
It wasn't worth dying for.
And
they were just trying to create some chaos in the end. A bunch of people signed up and half of those didn't show up.
And once the money dries up, then there's that extra incentive to not do it, anyways.
Yeah.
We'd have to understand like who's trying to move that notch, left or right, to get the scales of, people that are Democrats and people that are Republicans or whatever faction you try to align yourself with, when are those scales going to tip, right, and cause upset to the system?
I guess we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask this question and then I'm going to send it to you, Dan, to talk about our topic next week to kind of intro it. But my last question is, and maybe this is too big of a question to end the podcast on, do you think that there's still a threat of a major disastrous attack, let's say hydrogen bomb, a nuclear warfare of some sort? Is that the only way to break through, like a major, let's assume that a bomb gets on land. Is that the only way to make it happen, or do you even think that's viable? Troy, I'll go to you, then I'll go to you, Dan, and you can close us out.
Again, you'd have to get that bomb here somehow, and with the security apparatus, we would see it. Those bombs aren't inherently. You can make battlefield-sized nuclear bombs, but that's taking out a neighborhood instead of a whole city.
Yeah.
If that was the goal, they'd have to send in a fighter jet or a bomber.
Right.
Again, what nation has that has the means to get across the country, the world, right? I just don't see it happening.
I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, Troy. You just said that we saw that spy balloon from China. And if I recall correctly, it went all across the continental U.S.
Do you know why? Do you know why they let it go across?
Why?
I read all about into this. It was really interesting. So the moment the balloon was released, the U.S. was tracking it, and they wanted to know what was on it. So they let it go to see where it went. If they shot it down over, say, the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, it wouldn't have been recoverable. It would have been destroyed. Had they shot it down in the mountains of Alaska, it still would have been hard to get to. If they shot it down, hold on, Dan. If they shot it down through the U.S. No, this was their reasoning. This was from the Pentagon. So, had they shot it down in the Midwest, it could have fallen on homes and farms and cities. The coast off of North Carolina was very shallow, with I guess it's not a very rapid water. It doesn't move very fast. And it was a soft landing. They wanted to know what was in it. So they let it coast all the way to North Carolina, and they shot it down and recovered it all mostly intact.
I'm not saying you're wrong. But that was just a simple spy balloon.
And exactly. And that just floated. There was no pilot there. If they had to bomb the U.S., they would have to put it on a jet, fill it up, send it across the skies. Then they'd have a pilot that should be trained to look for the right. So the devil. Okay, Dan, what was your devil's advocate? What was your gonna comment be about that?
World War II. There's a museum in Klamath Falls. Yeah. They sent basically dynamite strapped to a weather balloon and blew up a church group in Oregon, right? That happened during World War II. So here's what I'll say. They could have used a slow flying airplane with a hook or a helicopter, and they could have snagged the weather balloon and retrieved all of the data they wanted to, right?
They could have done that.
Could have done that so many miles ahead of time. I think they knew what it was. They used it as a political debate. They tried to create civil unrest by, it's spying on you. Oh, it's doing this. Oh, it's doing that. It was a far more value political tool to use than to just blow it up in the Pacific before it got to us. Because that would be my military thing to do. Okay. Either you blow it up before it even gets close, because you got 100 miles past Hawaii, to the west, you could have taken care of this thing. Or you slow fly something, even 900 drones with hooks on it attached to it would bring it down with just sheer weight. There's so many different options to bring it down, right? So many different options. A RC plane with a spear on the end of it to pop the balloon and drive it down.
Right.
There's 1,000 different options to bring that down. But instead, what everybody needs to realize is our government that we vote for chose instead to use it as a political tool to divide an entire nation.
Wasn't that
That's
under
the
Biden?
thing that everybody should be mad
Troy,
about.
I was about to say, I I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I don't think Biden was competent enough to be like, I'm going to use this as a political tool. I don't think he knew what
not
was
him,
going on.
Just the people that surround him.
I guess my point is, like, if there was
they were all incompetent.
Let's say it was Trump, and
the
I'm not
Afghanistan
trying to shill for Trump
was the
right
same
now.
Thing.
I don't think Trump would let that go across.
No,
you know, because of competence. You know, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Troy. I do agree that that's what they said, and I kind of don't agree with you, Dan, because I don't think they were competent enough to make that decision. You know?
But there's like 7 layers of military that could have just ID'd it as a threat and taken it out.
You're right.
Especially if they saw bombs loaded on it. Some sort of weaponry.
There are so many different levels of military that knew what was going on with that were told to stand down. It's insane.
We have so much more that we could go into just that. I knew I should have asked the question
well, let's talk about the spy aspect of it, right? Do both of you know? We talked about digital warfare and all of these things with invasions and stuff. Have either of you heard of or know about flock cameras? Because it's a hot button topic right now.
I don't think I've even heard the term.
So there's these cameras and giant networks that are going up have been up all over the country. And it was supposed to be that the 3-letter agencies and the police agencies would have unfettered access to it to chase down criminals, right? Just like how the database that the police, right, when they pull you over and the license and registration and they go run your info, right? Yeah. These cameras know your info before you're even pulled over. Like, it tracks stickers on your truck. It knows if you shaved or not. Like, they know if you're wearing different glasses or not.
Yeah.
Like, they can use the Bluetooth in your car to track your heartbeat to see if you're doing stuff you shouldn't be doing while you're driving.
So we're going to talk about that next week, and I'm going to leave it here. I'm on Colorado's website, and it says the cameras do not capture, and I'm not contradicting you, Dan, but it says do not capture people's faces, gender, race, ethnicity, or video footage. I don't know what the hell that means. They're saying it doesn't record.
So they're cameras and they don't track video footage?
I don't know what that is.
What's a way to say you're lying without saying you're lying?
We have a lot of time to talk about this next week, and based on just a quick Google search, something's weird. So we'll be excited to talk about that next week, because you said, Dan, there's something supposed to go on the July 4th about this. I guess,
just look up flock cameras and you gotta...
Okay, this is perfect because it's not July 4th. July 4th will have passed next week. What's your prediction, Dan, of what will happen regarding these? And we'll test
the largest record of cameras being brought down will happen on the July 4th.
You've heard it there. The largest record of cameras will be brought down this July 4th. In a week from now...
I'm not doing it. I'm not involved. These are just things that I've read about.
He's predicting it. In a week from now, you can't win by a technicality. Like, only 10 have been brought down.
If it's only one 12. More than that, than ever has been brought down.
That doesn't count. All right, we're gonna test this theory next week, but we'll get more.
They said it best on Fast and the Furious. Yes. Winning's winning, whether it's an inch or a mile.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, W is a W. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have. This has been Sasquatch Talk. I hope you had a great time. Get your oil, SasquatchGunOil.com. We've got a lot more going on with videos, gun reviews. So keep an eye out on our content. And you should be hearing different music right now, because apparently the people who do our music aren't happy. All right, we'll talk to you later. Adios.